Hi, everybody, and thank you to so many of you who watched yesterday and took the time to send constructive criticism, comments to help make this a better resource, which I hope will be useful for everyone. So first of all, I've ditched the lurid red background, which some people said that they found it quite disturbing. And I don't know if this is much better, because I either look like I'm in Star Trek or about to be electrocuted or something, but hopefully at least it's not going to give anybody health problems. Of course, let me know if it does. Thank you to other people who've written to send in suggestions, such as you'd like to see shorter videos. Yes, I agree. I know absolutely that people prefer to watch shorter format stuff, so we will be doing that. We'll do short, focused daily pieces, and something like once a week, maybe a longer form piece, so that we can explore things in a bit more depth. We'll also look at going on to TikTok. Why not? Good idea. And ideas for content and cooperation have come in, and ideas include the way that parents of children with special needs and disabilities are treated in family court, which is a really big problem. Information about what's happening in different countries around the world, about mediation as an alternative to litigation. How is that working out for people? And what it's like being in a foreign country as a victim of domestic abuse and the family courts. And much, much more. I will literally draw up a list. So if you have ideas, contact us on Twitter or contact me on my personal account. Here are the details here. Yeah, we'll get it booked in. Let's do this. Happy to talk and get dialogue going. It's brilliant. So what's new in the family courts today? I haven't been following the news that much, as it's been a working day, but I did notice that political analyst Grant Wyeth has been writing again. He's published a piece which is based on the UN Special Rapporteur for Violence Against Women's call for input for her report on child custody cases and violence against women and girls, which she's going to submit to the UN Human Rights Council next year. The call for input is specifically about parental alienation, or rather the focus is it, but you can also tell her about other things, and we'll talk about parental alienation in more depth in another episode, among other important things. The reason why I go on and on about Grant Wyeth's work is because I've been arguing for ages that the family courts problem is not a legal problem anymore. It's a political problem. Why is that? Well, if we have got courts and judges and a child protection system that ignores the law, it violates the law, it violates international law, which is stronger, has more effect than national law. It violates procedural law. If it tolerates and enables the abuse of women and children, and not just women, there are male victims of abuse out there as well. We do acknowledge that, absolutely. If all of this is being tolerated, how is that? We think that the courts are a place where the truth is valued, where if you're found out to have committed perjury, which is telling an untruth in a court of law, that could is an offence which could be punishable by law, but it would certainly impact your case negatively. Well, in the family courts, that's not happening, and that's really weird. And that is getting tolerated. We're not having our governments coming in and intervening and saying what's going on here. It's being tolerated, and that means that it is a political decision to either enable it or to do nothing about it. So that's how we've got to treat it. So that's why I argue we've got to step over the courts, which are not working anyway, and address the problem at its source, which is the politicians. We've got to hold the politicians to account to make sure that we've got a functioning legal system. If they don't, we've got to raise public awareness of exactly what is happening in the family courts and who is responsible. This is an outrage, and we need public outrage, because what is happening is a complete violation of public morals. when I came out of the UK High Court in 2020 with a bad outcome, nobody could believe what had happened. Not my friends, not my parents, not my friends' parents, not my parents, my friends' parents, friends, nobody, not even the police, and especially not my family doctor. I have got to admit, that by this point, I had actually been gaslighted by my own lawyers, not just one set of lawyers, several sets of lawyers, into accepting that even though I didn't like what had happened one little bit, it was somehow normal. If you've got all of these people who you think, well, they're qualified, they know their stuff, and they're saying all these things, you tend to believe them. But there was still something in me which knew that what was happening was not right, and I knew that I would prove it one day. And since that time, I have learned that it really wasn't right. It wasn't morally right, and it wasn't legally right either. And having courts making illegal decisions is a political problem. It's not a legal problem, it's a rule of law problem. And this is why I really value Grant Wyeth's work. By the way, he's an Australian political analyst. He writes about international relations, and he goes on to demonstrate in a very common sense way, and I'd be really interested to hear what other people think about this, that this actually becomes an international relations problem and a huge, huge social problem in many ways. Because in what Grant described as concentric circles of violence that compound and ripple up from the individual and the household to the state and the international level, that means coming up through the streets, spilling over into social violence within the country, but also breeding generations of politicians who are violent. We end up with war. And Grant Wyeth says we cannot solve war without solving domestic violence, the world's primary security problem. And if you ever hear me going on about terrorism, it's because, yeah, a lot of people are saying, if you're, saying that, committing, violence against, different sort of like racial or ethnic communities, is an act of terrorism, why aren't you saying that committing violence against women and children is also an act of terrorism? And in actual fact, it is. So yeah, it is a security problem. It's a massive security problem. It's a problem that causes massive social costs. And that's been demonstrated. There are reports on that in the UK and the EU, and I'm freestyling here, so I haven't prepared the data, but I will bring it out for you another episode. It costs us a lot of money. And apart from that, all of the harm that's caused, people getting hurt, people getting killed, lives being ruined. This is not something that we can be tolerating. Yeah, so I could go on about this for ages, but I'll leave it for another episode. But what I want to say today is give a heads up that in relation to the UN Special Rapporteur's call for input for the UN Human Rights Council, that a family court crisis, we are preparing a survey to help people to be able to structure their answers for the Special Rapporteur. So it will sort of, we've developed a series of questions in response to what she's written, to try to get out the specific data points, because we understand a lot of people have got very, very complex cases. It's very emotive. It's very difficult to write about it without writing loads and loads. So we hope we've provided a bit of structure here. And if anybody has got problems with language, for example, maybe they would like to produce a copy in their native language and circulate it in their own communities, then get in touch with us and we'll see whether we can put that out, to be able to, because this should be accessible for everybody. It's not fair if it's just sort of restricted to people who speak English. So yeah, this is something which is supposed to be for the global community, because this is a global problem. So I am going to head off and finish building that survey so that hopefully I can get it out in the morning. So look out for it. We'll tweet it, we'll post it on Facebook. Any problems, give us a shout and we'll do our best to fix it. And hopefully we can get our evidence to the Human Rights Council in plenty of time and in good shape, so it's easy to analyse and it's got some kind of weight of numbers behind it. It's not just, based on a small number of cases. So keeping it short and sweet, I will say goodbye for now. I'm sending you strength and hope to wherever you are. Stay strong. We're standing together.